Okay, so obviously tonight we're talking about session 6. It's hard to believe. I know that Kim was joking, kind of, way back about 10 weeks ago, saying this might be more than 6, more than 5, and here we are at 6. So, and of course tonight, here we are. And just say, Kim, it's been an absolute pleasure and an eye opener, is what I'd use for what has happened over the last probably 10 weeks, where we've pretty much every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we've done a segment with the journey through time, and we've gone through so much, and now we're up to session 6. So without stealing your thunder, take it away.
Thank you, Brownie, and hello to everybody. We might just pop everyone on mute.
Yep, I'll do that right now.
Brownie, if that's
Mute
okay.
all.
Thanks. Okay, thank you, everybody. Hi, and nice to see you back again, and welcome to anybody that's new that's coming onto the call. So, as always, we start the session off by just saying some of this information can be a challenge to process. Sit with it. Use your own discernment. We're all at that different level of consciousness, and we all need to work through things. It's your journey. Always remember that. There's no right and there's no wrong, but it's an unfolding and it's a sharing of information, and that's the most important thing. I'm not here to change your mind, nor am I here to change your faith. It's yours. This is just giving you information to hopefully shine a light on what has happened in history over eons of time. Just before we started the recording, we were just having a little chat there. And the reason that I actually wanted to start doing these history sessions, because once you start having a look into what's happened throughout time, it starts to take the fear out of it. So all of the narratives and the processes that we see going on, particularly today, where things are coming to a head, once you understand where they come from and how they've come into fruition, and that they are all the same regurgitated narrative, it starts to take that fear out of it. So sit back tonight, relax and enjoy, and we'll begin the session. Just to recap from last session, we covered off Satan and Jesus and the different faces that played, the different roles, Christ consciousness, what that was all about. So tonight, I thought it would be a great place to go for a journey through time regarding the inception of religion, secret societies, and how those two match up together. So there's some very interesting things in here which some of you may know, some of you may not know. Last week, I'm just going to share my screen now, actually. Let's get that going. So last week, our good friend Corbus actually sent me a little post, and it really highlighted the difference between religion and spirituality. So I'll just go through these. It was written by a wise man who really highlighted the differences. And of course, I've put a couple of little tweaks in there myself. So if we have a look at religion, it's not just one. There's many different religions out there. In spirituality, there is only one. Religion is for those who sleep, spirituality for those who are awake. Religion is for those who need to tell someone to tell them what to do and who want guidance. Spirituality is for those who pay attention to their inner work. Religion has dogmatic rules. Spirituality calls us to discuss it and question everything. Religion threatens and scares. Spirituality gives us peace. Religion talks about sin and guilt. Spirituality says learn from your mistakes. Religion suppresses everything that is wrong. Spirituality overcomes it and brings you closer to the truth. Religion is about God, but it's not a God or God. Spirituality is everything everything and therefore is in God, of God. Religion is inventing, spirituality is finding. Religion doesn't tolerate any questions, whereas spirituality will question everything. Religion is humanity and organizations whose rules are made by men. Spirituality is divine, without human rules. Religion is the cause of division. Spirituality unites. Religion seeks you to believe. Spirituality is a knowing, it's not a belief. Religion follows concepts of a book, and spirituality looks for a holiday in all books. Religion feeds fear. Spirituality feeds trust and faith. Religion lives in thoughts. Spirituality lives in inner consciousness. Religion deals with the performance of rituals. Spirituality is related to the inner self. Religion feeds the ego. Spirituality forces you to go beyond that. Religion makes us follow God or a God. Spirituality teaches us that God is within us. Religion is a cult. Spirituality is an inner meditation. Religion fills us with dreams of glory and paradise. Spirituality creates glory and paradise. Religion lives in the past and the future. Spirituality is living in the present. Religion creates monasteries in our memory. Spirituality frees our consciousness. Religion makes us believe in eternal life, and spirituality makes us aware of eternal life. Religion promotes life after death. Spirituality teaches us that our spirit is eternal. Religion makes us externalize to a greater power. Spirituality makes us realize that that power is within us. Religion makes us give our power away. Spirituality teaches you to sit in your own power. There's a big difference between what religion teaches you and what spirituality actually is. When you start to do the inner work, you realize that all of those things fall away. You come into your own power. You sit in that space where you're able to start to begin that connection with who you truly are. It opens up a whole new world for you, a world that until that point, you really didn't even know existed. You work from a space of love, universal love, not egoic love. You listen to your heart, not your mind. So what happened and how did we stray so far from the truth? So we start off with the origins of religion. We see that places of worship have been erected long before any churches as we know them today. They were in the forms of temples. Ancient Mesopotamia has been cited as the birthplace of religion, with the first written records of religious practices dating back to 3500 BC from Sumer. Mesopotamian beliefs held that human beings were co-workers with the gods and labored with them, and for them to hold back the forces of chaos, which had been checked by the supreme deities at the beginning of time. Now notice that again, right from the start in ancient religion, we can see that already we're dealing with not one creator, not one being that is all, that is everywhere, in everything. The references to early religion already start to work with gods. As we know, the gods at the time were the Anunnaki portraying themselves as gods. Christianity began as a movement with Judaism at a period when the Jews had long been dominated culturally and politically by foreign powers and had found in their religion the linchpin of their community. Remembering the story of the movement of Israelites into Canaan and the subsequent creation of Zionism, ancient texts further describe how the Egyptian rulers and their Canaanite vassal kings burdened the lower classes of Canaan with taxes and even slavery. Sound familiar? exactly what we see today, exactly what we see play out throughout history. Most scholars agree that early Israel was an oral society of pastoralism and subsistence farming. It was only the closed circles of royal and priestly scribes that used the written word. So how and why did the writing spread to the lay classes? We don't know. We weren't there. But regardless, it was this spread of Hebrew writing in ancient Palestine that democratized the written word and allowed it to gain religious authority in the book that we now call the Bible. Writing was restricted and expensive technology controlled by the government and manipulated by the priests. It was seen as a gift from the gods. But again, which gods? How many gods? It was not used to canonize religious practice, but rather to engender religious awe. It was considered magical and powerful. It was the guarded knowledge of political and religious elites. The archaeological evidence suggests the spread of writing through all classes of society by the 7th century BC in Judah. It became a tool of religious reformers who first proclaimed the authority of the written word. The priests, who took over the leadership of the Jewish community during this time, persevered and edited biblical literature and saw this literature could become a tool that legitimated and furthered the political and religious authority. So right back into ancient times, already we can see in the ancient texts that priests and political figures are manipulating the words that have been passed down previously orally through generation to generation. So by the time of the fall of Babylon in 539 BC and the return of the Jewish exiles to Palestine, the core of the Hebrew Bible was completed. The Torah, which originally meant teaching or instruction, increasingly began to refer to a written text, the Torah of Moses. So again, already seeing the influence of the scribes that belonged to the royal and the priestly families who had the means to manipulate the early scriptures to suit their political and religious authority. They wanted the narratives that they needed. It is said that the Bible, since its inception, has been changed a further 18 times that we know of. It has been translated, edited, and revised to reflect the cultural, societal understanding of its writers. If we actually have a look at the Gnostic Gospels, in 1947, the Gospels were discovered at Mag Hammadi in Upper Egypt. These are a collection of writings about the teachings of Jesus. They're written 50 AD to the late 2nd century in Coptic text. They reject the Orthodox Christian doctrine of salvation through faith in Jesus and instead emphasize the importance of spiritual enlightenment. They criticize the hierarchical structure of the early Christian church, which they saw as oppressive and patriarchal. The Gospels found their way to Professor Quipsel of the Jung Foundation in Zurich, where he determined the texts were previously unknown. And it just so happens the Gospels' disappearance was in a period during the formation of the Roman Catholic Church. Funny that. It's also no surprise that the works were considered heretical and suppressed by the governing body of the Christian Church. It could be argued that if the Gospels had not been suppressed, Christianity would have developed very differently, if at all. The suppression also meant the survival of the organization and theological structure of the Roman Catholic Church, one that had been designed by the priests, the bishops, and those that were in charge. So is it any wonder that the church suppressed the Gospels, since they often describe the material world as an illusion? It's not dependent on intermediaries such as priests or institutions, but rather on individual knowledge and spiritual awakening. And of course, the Roman Catholic Church, as we know it, would not want that. The kingdom of God is within you and all around you, not in building of wood and stone. Split a piece of wood and I am there. Lift a stone and you will find me. That's just one of the passages from the Gnostic Gospels, telling you to go within instead of without. Releasing the knowledge of the Gospels would upset the carefully constructed balance of power held by the priests and the bishops. The Catholic Church asserts that its authority is handed down through the apostolic succession, tracing its leadership back to the original apostles of Jesus. They claim to be the authentic and authoritative expression of Christianity, with the Pope being considered the successor to St. Peter. Of course, the benefits of this uncontested source of authority would set the scene for what we are seeing today. Using the quote to Apostle Matthew, "To you it has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given." The church took things to a whole new level. It was very much in the interests of the rulers of the early church to emphasize the resurrection in its literal sense. This would ensure the population for eons to come would look to and for a saviour. The Gospels tell a different story around what the meaning of the resurrection of Jesus is about. It is not denying the actual event, but offering the spiritual meaning that should have been taught. Summarizing the treatise of resurrection, it says ordinary human existence is described as spiritual death, whereas the resurrection is the moment of enlightenment, revealing what truly exists. So what they're talking about there is that our enlightenment comes from Him. It comes at the time when we are able to release the ego, when we are able to reestablish that connection with Source, when we are able to come into our own power as we should have always done. Integrating that knowledge allows you to become spiritually alive and resurrected from the dead immediately, whilst you are living. The Gospel of Philip says, "Those who say they will die first and then rise are in error. They must receive the resurrection while they are alive." Again, bringing the focus within instead of giving your power away to an external source. This is further concreted in the Gnostic apocalypse of Peter. Those who name themselves bishop and deacon and act as if they have received their authority from God are in reality waterless canals. Although they do not understand mystery, they boast that the mystery of truth belongs to them alone. They've misinterpreted that apostles' teaching and have set up an imitation church in place of the true Christian brotherhood. And here's some things that make you go, Predating Jesus, there are many different accounts of gods or sons of gods being born of a virgin. All have the same date celebrated as their birthday, resurrection, and the similarities go on. So let's just have a look at a few. Horus, born of a virgin, birthday 25th of December, birth announced by a star in the east, attended by 3 kings, child teacher, baptized when he was 30, 12 disciples, performed miracles, walked on water, called the way and the truth and the light, crucified, buried in a tomb, resurrected. Krishna, born of a virgin, birth announced by a star in the east, performed miracles, called the Son of God, son of a carpenter, resurrected. Atis, born of a virgin, celebrated birthday 25th of December, reported to be a shepherd or a herdsman, crucified, dead for 3 days, resurrected. Mirtha, born from a rock, often referred to as a virgin, birthday 25th of December, 12 disciples, performed miracles, called the way and the truth and the light, dead for 3 days, resurrected. These are just four of many, many different stories which give the same narrative as what we know as the Jesus story today. Let's just have a little bit of a look at the Mirtha cult. It dates back to the early days of Christianity in Roman times. It was a strong competitor for Christianity and became the most popular religion. The slaying of the bull was a ritual in the religion where his followers would eat the flesh of the bull and drink, some say bathe in it, its blood. Water or wine and bread could be substituted if a bull was not available. The worship of Mirtha included a Lord's Supper. Mirtha had a banquet with his followers the night before his death. An inscription found in a temple of Memphis reads, "He who will not eat of my body and drink of my blood, so that he will be made one with me and I with him, the same shall not know salvation." Compare this with the words of John 6:53 to 54. "Except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, ye have no life in you. Whoso eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath entered as eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day." Wow. Many, many similarities between the story of Jesus and pagan myths, including pictures dated 6,000 years apart, but almost identical. As you can see, we've got a picture there of Isis holding a baby and a picture of Mary holding her baby. Identical pictures, and it's not the only one. There are many. So we are seeing this story, this narrative, repeated many times, predating Jesus throughout history. In no way is this leading to any suggestion that Jesus didn't exist. But we must ask ourselves, how much of the Bible story has been taken from ancient myths? How much of the true teachings of Jesus has been suppressed? And why? Well, in come secret societies. They've been around since time immemorial. In the ancient worlds before Christ, the priests and royalty were the equivalent of a secret society, holding the secrets of the mystics to themselves, using that knowledge to create a hierarchical slavery society, which is carried on through to this day. The first 3 centuries of the AD era were the heyday for mystery cults or secret societies, corresponding to the insurgence of the Roman Empire. There's very little information written on early societies. What is clear, though, is that they've offered individual mystical experience, even direct contact with the divine, in an atmosphere of fellowship and confidence. The ultimate goals were redemption, salvation, and immortality, but only for those who were allowed to join. So what's the common theme of them all? All of them had some connection to seasons and the movement on the planet and stars. Initiation ceremonies, often tough and prolonged, included fasting and ritual purification. Vows of secrecy, group rituals, meals, dancing, and occasional orgy to reinforce the bonds. Central myth or story that almost involved themes of death and resurrection. The goal was mystical illumination and personal union with God. And illumination isn't learned. It arrives full-born in a flash of revelation for them. The use of mental shock, including terror and physical pain, to induce altered states. Now, haven't we heard that somewhere before? These practices have been employed in everything from so-called enhanced interrogation techniques to psychotherapy. They play a key part in initiations and mental conditioning by many secret societies. So let's just have a little bit of a look at a few and the influence that they've had. The assassins. The roots for the assassins reach back at least as far as the beginning of Islam in the 7th century, when Muhammad's religion split into 2 irreconcilable factions, the Sunni and the Shia. The Shia became the assassins. The dispute was more political than theological, centered on who would rule as the Caliph of Islam as a successor to Muhammad. The reason for the split stemmed mostly from jealousy, but some worried that anointing Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law Ali would create a dynasty and a royal bloodline. They believed that a holy spark flowed from the Prophet to his daughter Fatima and his cousin Ali and all their descendants. They were dubbed imams. Again, similarities that we find through history on bloodlines. Ali, after a quarter of a century, took the reins, but fell to an assassin 5 years later, as did the successors for the next 250 years. Many of the Shia, who were a persecuted minority, went underground and became a secret society, where secret passphrases and hand signs completed the picture. Again, sound familiar? The Shia seized control of Egypt around 900 AD through being specially trained missionaries who penetrated enemy territory, recruiting new faithful followers. Their aim was to create a Shia shadow state that would undermine and ultimately replace the Sunni Abbasids. They opened the House of Wisdom in Cairo with a front of public libraries and universities, but in truth, it was a training school for a secret organization dubbed the Society of Wisdom. Typical of a secret society, initiates were told they would receive hidden power and timeless wisdom. Through the journey of their leaders, the assassins were brought into direct contact with the Knights Templar. Just going to have a look at a secret society, or a society that became secret, called the Cathars. It comes from the Greek word kathoroi, or pure ones, but they called themselves the good Christians, or good men. They were a dualistic sect that arose during the Middle Ages, with the movement coming into its prime in the 10th century as a response to the rise of feudalism. The oppression and slavery of feudalistic ideas spurred the priest Bogomi and his followers to a mindset of individual free will and worth. They didn't believe in the need for church buildings or the hierarchical structure of the church, but instead, the essence of their belief was that there were two gods. The good God, the Lord of light and mercy, rules the world of spirit, the celestial realm from which humankind's pure, immortal souls had fallen. What they fell into was the material world, a spiritual prison ruled by the evil gods, the demigod, I can't say that word, or Satan. They believed everything in the material realm was corrupt, and our pure souls yearned to escape it. But we're condemned to eternal rebirth in this cosmic prison through the allure of its seductive but false pleasures. And that's so true. When you really start to have a look at many different spiritual texts, one of the things that is attractive to actually be here on this planet is that A, it provides the opportunity for learning in a rapid sense, but B, it also has many pleasures, many material things, which is not so prevalent on other worlds. So the Cathars saw the Catholic Church as a tool of the evil God. To them, it was a monstrosity of, oh, sorry, I've already said that. Did I say that? No, sorry. My apologies. Cathars saw the Catholic Church as a tool of the evil God. To them, it was a monstrosity of bricks and mortar and idolizing that did nothing but mislead. To them, the Holy Trinity was a lie. They believed that Jesus was neither God nor man, but a type of hologram, meaning there was no real crucifixion or resurrection or virgin birth, because Jesus had no material form. As a visible movement, it lasted for around 250 years, but the phenomenon that embodied their beliefs and practices date back hundreds, maybe thousands of years, and in fact, under different names, can be found today. For decades, the Pope's crusaders laid waste to southern France to ruthlessly stamp out what they had considered to be heresy. The Cathars become a secret society after, in 1208, Pope Innocent III sent a papal league to Toulouse to reconvert the heretics. It didn't work. Roman Catholic crusaders stormed the town of Béziers in 1209, a town that was home to many Cathars and many ordinary Catholics. The Order of Papal Representative, Arnaud Armory, actually said during that time, "Kill them all and God will know his own." It just shows the ruthlessness of the Catholic Church. It was during this period that the Catholic Church formed its own secret society, the Inquisition, to root out and infiltrate those who had gone underground from the Cathars. For the next 100 years, the secret police of the Vatican conducted a ruthless campaign of extermination against the Cathar underground society, burning their leaders and their books. Is it any wonder that the Catholic Church was so fervent in the annihilation of the Cathars? when the movement is said to be based on an original primitive Christianity, the true church, before it was taken over and perverted by a self-serving cabal of bishops, pontiffs, and patriarchs. Freemasonry. Most people think that Freemasonry came to fruition in about the 1700s. But just let's have a little look at history. It's not one thing, but it's many. Much of its origins are lost in time. However, what we do know is that the movement grew into a worldwide presence, influencing almost every aspect of today's society. We begin this journey at Solomon's Temple. Kingdom of David and Solomon, one nation united under one God, according to the Bible. Given the geographical location, we have to ask ourselves which God. According to the book The Hiram, it's a commonly held Masonic view that this temple was a landmark in the history of building. Experts consider its style, size, and layout to be almost a carbon copy of a Sumerian temple erected for the god Ninurta. The god Ninurta just happened to be Enlil's son, Yahweh's son. King Solomon, during his reign, created many, many great buildings, including the Temple of Jerusalem, otherwise known as Solomon's Temple. He was known as the wise king, perhaps the wisest of them all. But interestingly, the designation of wise was actually given to all the builders and kings who sponsored building for thousands of years before Solomon came along. So he commissioned the building, and it tells us that in 1 Kings, in the month of Ziv, which is the second month, that he began to build the house of the Lord. Remember, from a Hebraic perspective, a Lord is not one who simply rules over another, but rather one who provides for and protects those under his charge. Thus, Lord could be depicted as the custodian or the landlord. Solomon's temple was dedicated to Yahweh, the God of Israel, and was said to be designed for the worship of God through sacrifices, prayer, and other religious rituals. Again, we must ask ourselves, would God ask for sacrifices? And what sort of rituals are we talking about? The ancient Israelites believed their God demanded a very specific form of worship. And evidence of that survives today on Mount Gerizim in Palestine. The Samaritans who lived there claim direct descent from the ancient tribes of Israel. According to their tradition, for over 2,500 years, they've been practicing the ancient Israelite form of worship, animal sacrifice. The primary function is to make a connection to the divine world, and the means for the ancient Israelites is embodied in blood, which is the most sacred substance on the altar. It is the most precious substance in the human world. Well, not just the human world. The ritual of the Holy Royal Arch degree in Freemasonry mentions that 3 individuals, King Solomon, Hiram, and the Phoenician king of Tyre, the Phoenician king of Tyre, who supplied the craftsmen, and Hiram Abith, the architect of the temple, held an important lodge and were the sole joint holders of the true secrets of a master mason. The book The Hiram suggests that the temple was not constructed to be visited by men. It was quite literally the house of God, a home for Yahweh himself, a home for the Anunnaki god Enlil. The Holy of Holies was said to be in permanent darkness except for once a year on the Day of Atonement, when the high priest entered with the blood of the national sin offering, the scapegoat. Again, we see the Masonic reference where in the rituals, this room is literally known as the Sanctum Sanctorum. There are threaded links to the Knights Templar again and the Roman Catholic Church. References in the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which relate to the stone which the builders rejected, becoming the head of the corner. This is an exact parallel of the ritual of the Masonic Masonry degree. The history of modern Freemasonry begins in 1717 in London, where the creation of the United Grand Lodge of England expanded out of England and abroad. By 1800, more than 300 affiliated lodges existed in England alone. with grand lodges in Ireland and Scotland. Now we know Freemasonry is everywhere today. Those lodges, those organizations expanded exponentially to cover the whole world. There's evidence to suggest that the manuscripts of Regius and Halliwell, dating back to 1390, holds influence in the Masonic Society. This manuscript invokes the Greco-Egyptian mathematician Euclid, who lived around 300 BC. Euclid was said to have counterfeited geometry and thereby invented Freemasonry. The rituals and rules were based on a collection of documents called the Old Charges, dating back to the 15th century. One of the earliest known Masonic documents, the Cook manuscript from 1450, mentioned elucid. It brings in King Solomon, and it actually pushes things all the way back to Adam. So the Catholic Church has had a nearly 300-year known history of deviating from the dogmatic teaching against Freemasonry. Whilst there's been some public displays of anti-Freemason propaganda by the Church, the infiltration of secret societies is evident right throughout the accounts of history. The teachings of the churches as we know them today are based on doctrines of control from ancient times. As we have seen, they will go to any lengths to suppress the true path to enlightenment from the masses. With the advancement of secret societies, symbolism and occultism has never been so prevalent as it is in current times. So the Illuminati. In 1776, 5 men gathered around a table in Ingolstadt, Bavaria, led by a man named Adam Weishaupt, 28 years of old at that point. The meeting inaugurated a new secret society called the Order of Perfectibilists, soon after becoming the Order of the Illuminati, or the Order of the Enlightened. The totem was the owl of Minerva, or Athena, the ancient goddess of wisdom, and the symbol was a dot in a circle representing the all-seeing eye. This was not the eye of God, but rather was the mysterious unknown superiors who the order answered to. Their vision was nothing less than a world revolution, bringing in a new world order. Even back in those days, the terminology was there. The destruction of Christianity and all other forms of religion, annihilation of all governments, liberation from all social, moral, and religious restraint were just some of the changes on the table. Religious superstition would be replaced with atheism for the masses and an enlightened pantheism for the higher classes. Communism would govern economics. The enlightened elite, the Illuminati, would reign over their earthly paradise. There was nothing new about a utopian society or vision. The term Illuminati had been used many times, and the vision can be found throughout history. The difference with this society is that the perfect kingdom would be brought about by humans. Well, the illuminated ones bringing in their own version. The Illuminati based itself on organization. Rather than appealing to the masses this time, the change would be done in secret. Weishaupt said, "The great strength of our order lies in its concealment. Let it never appear in any place in its own name, but always covered by another name and another occupation." Whilst the front of this secret society appeared to disappear after only a decade, it would carry on in another form. Weishaupt saw that men desired status. Offering them access to secrets was a way to manipulate them. He looked for an existing secret society to serve as a front for the Illuminati and decided that none is fitter than Freemasonry. Why? The public was already accustomed to it. The public expects little from it and therefore takes little notice of it. In 1777, Weishaupt joined a Masonic lodge and order and ordered all his Illuminati members to do the same and attain positions of leadership. turning lodges into vehicles of Illuminati propaganda and expansion. They infiltrated libraries and literacy societies so we may turn the public mind which way we will and monitor everything that was printed. Their fingers spread to include important aristocrats, royals, lawyers, academics, physicians, writers, theologists, and the list go on. Their infiltration into religions, governments, education, global bodies, organizations, and media has no bounds, leaving a world conditioned into a slave mentality. So what are we saying here with all of this? What we're saying is that it's evident that all of these secret societies coveted the secret knowledge based on Gnostic beliefs. They understood the true teachings of spirituality while spreading the seed of worship to the masses. We see the close relationship that secret societies have had with religious movements. And when we look back through history, we see the same patterns, the same stories, the same suffering, the same vilification, the same savior, the same program to worship. We see that there is no creation. There is only a regurgitation of the same narrative, created by the same players over and over and over. We see the infiltration into governments, organizations, religions, money markets, into everything. This process has been perfected over time to ensure that they enslave as many as possible. Where ancient secret societies responsible for smaller areas of slavery, their wings have now spread to encompass the whole world, putting the global population into a trance. The doctrines were always secret, kept that way, to manipulate the people, create fear, and keep the disconnection from source. It's what they fear the most. Religion was never about reconnecting you with source. It's always been about control. Control that served the few and kept you on your knees, kept you looking outwards instead of in, always hoping for a savior when the savior was always in you. It's put humanity in invisible chains, and it really is time to let them go. We have everything we need. We must always listen to our heart. The mind can lead you on a path that is often not in service to ourselves or others. The answer is always, always in the heart. It's time to let go of the indoctrination and begin to come into the beautiful beings that we are and always have been. As is recorded in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, "There's perfect light at the heart of a man of light. He lights up the whole world. If he fails to shine, there's darkness." So what's unfolding here, this is really just a snippet of what's unfolded in history and the many, many different types of religions and the many, many different secret societies that have been ongoing. When you actually start to see the patterns unfold, when you start to see that the same narratives are repeated time and time and time again, we really have to ask ourselves, where did these stories come from? How have they changed? Have they been perfected so that they use different words, different processes to actually bring us into that web of control, of externalizing something into a source that is, we're told, is greater than us? It's a really interesting program that's rolled out since the beginning of time. We buy into it over and over. When we are able to take that step back, they cannot be creative. When you are working in a service to self mode, when you are working in that lower light realm, you cannot create. And that's evident. It's evident as we go through history and see the same repeated narrative. When you come into your power and you are working in service to others and you are establishing that connection to all that is, you begin to get creative. Your mind expands exponentially. Your heart expands exponentially. You listen to your heart. Your discernment comes sharp. You know when there is truth and when there is belief. You live in a very different way. There is no judgment. You work from a place of love. Everyone is touched by you that you come into contact with. When you start to work in that space, it's recognizing these invisible chains that we have had since the inception of man. It's a long process to work through it and let it go. But as you begin to do that, you watch everything change around you. We are loved more than we know, and we love more than we know. All of this is an illusion. And when you can see past that veil, this world changes exponentially. So that brings us to the conclusion of tonight's session. It actually went a little bit quicker, wasn't quite as long as what I'd expected, given I'd had a lot more slides in there tonight, but that's okay. So I hope that brings a little bit of clarity, and feel free to ask any questions.
So now's the time to put your hand up and ask a question.
Or comment.
Oh, comment, yeah. I mean, I think what you shared was fair and reasonable. I mean, as a traditional Christian, yeah, makes sense to me, and I can see how we've been deceived so much. So yes, very good. Anybody else? Come on, hands up. Questions? Grant?
It brought to mind when I was going through a tough time, I came across I don't know what the book was, but I think it was the Gnostic Gospels, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading it, and it inspired something in me when I read that, and that began my whole journey on recognizing. Actually, the term was rise above the herd, because I love that term, because it really is rise above the culture, because the cultural narrative pretty much is what we become. And as Kim just shared there, it's everywhere talking to us. The culture talks to us from every angle from a young age. And so what Kim's sharing there is programmed from a young age from our culture. And to hear information like this can obviously be just my aunt and I had an experience that helped me see outside of that. So it was an amazing presentation.
Thanks, Grant. Thank you. It is. It really does, and I think that's you're just breaking up a little bit there too. So just so that you know, it is, and it really is about rising above the herd. And that's exactly what happens when you see through the illusion and you see where the indoctrinations have come from and how long these programs have been in place. So it is rising above the herd. It's really stepping out of what we know is a definitive practice or a definitive program that has brought us into that invisible slavery.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem we have right now is that we know this stuff, but we know that almost in every country town in Australia, there is a lodge, and it's all very secret. So when the White Hat's saying they're in control and they're going to be doing an arrest, I mean, there's a lot to do in Australia, just like there's all over the world. When it comes to this.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Brownie. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
But what one of the things that I know in my heart is that when people actually start to come into their own power, their vibration lifts. When your vibration lifts, it lifts those around you. When you do that collectively, the world can change like that, because everything is created in a different density. It's created by a thought. And when you have a whole heap of people, when you have a collective group focusing on a thought, it gives it power, it gives it intent. The emotion in that drives it and brings it into reality. So when people go through that process of coming into their own, focus on the reality that we do want rather than the things that we don't want, it can change almost instantaneously.
And that's where also too, I mean, as patriots, we're on multiple channels on Telegram, and sometimes you see stuff that you go, well, I know it's there, but I'm not going to be hitting that button to go down that rabbit hole because I know enough. Or yeah, if there is something that we know is, it's designed to wake the normies, take note, but don't go down the rabbit hole. Otherwise, it might affect your vibration.
See, the whole thing about this process, and right from its inception, is that this is an energy harvest. Everything in detail is designed to harvest our energy, because that's what feeds the beings to keep them going. That's what feeds these people who work in that lower light, if you like, or the darkness, is the energy. And if you look at the intricacies that they have set society up with, I mean, education, the capture at birth of us as people in the creation of the corporate name, right down to details such as how frustrated do you get when you phone Telstra? How long are you on the phone for? How often do you get a resolution that you want? All of it by design, because that means it's a distraction for you to not focus on you, for you not to come into the have the ability or the time to actually look at who you are from the heart. Every single minute detail has been done in such perfection that we don't even think, we can't even begin to say how much indoctrination has happened. And what happens with that is, because we have to feed our energy into it, then it keeps it going. It grows, it becomes its own life, and then it feeds the negative back into you. Once we step out of that and we come into our power, then we let that go. We see every single thing differently. We know our thoughts. We know what we're thinking. We know when our thoughts are our own and when they're not. We know how to create. We see the creation happening all the time around us. The people in our lives change. Our thoughts become clearer. The wisdom that we start to integrate is then communicated back to those around us and outside of our wider circle. It's a process, but really everything changes around you when you actually do the inner work. And it's difficult because by design, we don't have the time.
And really, that's what they've tried to do, keep us so busy, spin the wheels, working two jobs, and the wife's working, and the kids are frustrated at school because they're not learning what they should. They've been indoctrinated, so it all builds a funk, shall we say?
It does. And one that's simply, sometimes very difficult to extract ourselves from. But we have to start somewhere. And we have to start with the realization that we are so, so much more than we have ever been taught that we are. But this is in our DNA cells. What is happening right now, or has been happening, is embedded in our DNA cells, because that's all we've ever known. Coming out of that is like walking into the light, literally, because it illuminates everything. The programs, every single time a program pops up, you see it.
You see it for what it is.
You see it for what it is. Every time someone reacts to you, you recognize that program and you go ahead with that person in love and understanding rather than a reactory emotion. So it changes you. And as I said before, when it changes you, it changes everything. One of the things that's interesting is that the esoterical world is something that has been used as a control mechanism that we haven't been aware of. And when you think about it, everything begins with the thought. And I have used this, and I don't know if I've used this analogy here, but have a look at it when you build a house. The very first thing that happens is you get a picture of the house in your head. You see it, you feel it, you touch it, you walk around in it, you smell it, you've got your garden, you can see that you want a pool and a fence and fruit trees and veggie garden and this and that and the other. It's all here, and you are so focused on that. Every time you go into that space, you create a little bit more and a little bit more. until you get to that point where you take that to an architect or whoever, and they draw up a plan. And all of a sudden, that thought comes down onto a piece of paper. Next step, get a builder. They lay the basis of it and build the house. And before you know it, there's a shell of a house. In the meantime, you're walking around, you're planting your seeds, you're planting your garden, putting your fence, putting your pool in, all of that kind of stuff while your house is being built. A little while later, it's done. And you are living in the dream that started with a thought. It is with everything. It can be used for service to others or service to self. Unfortunately, for our history, for humanity's history, it's been used for service to self. And this is where the flip is occurring now. Our thoughts, which then turn into our physical reality, is now turning into service to others. That changes the tide. One of the
everything.
things.
Christiane, darling, go ahead.
So that was another very good presentation. When you said that they live on our bad energy, the negative energy. So how I'm trying to wrap my head around how do they feed on that?
So everything is energy, absolutely everything. When you have entities, we have a whole world out here that's comprised of angels in the upper realms, if you like, demons in the lower realms, if you like, to explain it in that context. There are entities that we can't see. There are things that are called elementals, which we can't see. There are thought forms. Thought forms actually become a real energetic thing which sit in the mental plane. They get given strength by intent and emotion. They can be directed by you or by somebody who is working in a service to self mode. They create eventually something that is called an egregore. An egregore grows in that realm to have its own chakra system. What an egregore does is that it feeds off your energy and it feeds you energy back. Now, these beings that live in a density that we can't see, in a vibration that is not of ours, generally of a vibration that is possibly a higher vibration or a lower vibration, or those people that use entities in, for example, ritualistic practices, as we know about, use all of this in the unseen, in our unseen world, to feed them. It's what drives them. The fear energy, the negative energy actually goes into their etheric bodies and it gives them life.
Right. So it's a bit hard to really wrap your head around it, isn't it? Because I do get that's what probably they use when they're doing, excuse me, satanic rituals, and it's all this energy that they harvest.
That's right.
And actually, that's what they manipulated.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But think of it as an ongoing thing. It's like the electricity pole that sits outside of your house and continually feeds electricity into your home, but you can't see it. You can see the wire, but you can't see the electricity. You can't see the energy that's flowing through that wire, and yet your house is lit up whenever you need it. It's exactly the same thing whereby there are what you would call etheric cords that link these guys, where they can actually weave a way through these other densities, which we with our naked eye can't see, and feed off the energy that is being fed into these thought forms, these elementals, these other entities in those unseen planes, if you like.
So would you say that there's a lot of extraterrestrial that would be part of that?
Oh my goodness, yes.
They will be more familiar with it and probably rely on it to have their energy to be able to survive.
That's exactly right.
To actually stay on the earth plane and keep living and being here, and that's the only way they can actually, how would you say, operate,
Survive.
That's right.
survive.
Yes. A lot of the ones that we know about, the reptilians, the greys, etc., those ones, and even others. There are some Nordics who are working for the lower light, and other civilizations as well that have been and still are on Earth. Although they say the reptilians have been removed and the greys have been disbanded. We'll cover that actually probably in the next session with the extraterrestrial connection as far as the enslavement of humanity as we know it in these days is concerned. But yes, they are multidimensional and they can actually gravitate between different densities. So they can exist on a fourth density on Earth where we can't see them and harvest the energy that is prevalent on that particular density and those different planes. We also are multidimensional. In fact, we are probably the most advanced multidimensional human body, if you like, in our universe. And it's an experience that many other civilizations want to partake in because of the structure of our DNA, because of the other civilizations that we have that make up our DNA. We just haven't progressed enough to realize that multidimensionality. We actually have the ability to come in and out at will. We've forgotten how to do that. We have the ability to transfer our consciousness at will, to be able to move objects, if you like, at will, to take up physicality to another place at will. But we've just forgotten. We've forgotten how to do these things. But we exist in each area or dimension or density within ourselves. When we reestablish that connection to Source, it opens up that world where we are able to actually perform miracles in what we would look at as miracles. Once we master that we're energetic beings.
So would you say that with the interference of the heavily negative energy that's on the planet, on the Earth, that we are distracted and we can't focus on all the energy that we actually can tap into and make use of?
Yes, 100%, all by design. Every single thing that we know in our world today is by design to keep us in a lower vibration. Not just that. There were devices put underground. The television was one, through the symbols and the vibrations or the frequencies that are emitted through the televisions. The music, as you know, manipulated to a specific hertz. The power lines, the roads, the connection to Saturn and the moon, the black goo that was put around Earth on purpose, all designed to keep us vibrating at a lower level so that we don't recognize who we are and what we can do. The thing is, when we actually know that, when we come into that power, they are completely done. It is by design because it is the thing that they fear the most. They know once we sit in that power of who we are, there is no way that they can exist in our presence. If you fear them, for example, if you come into contact with some of these extraterrestrial beings, the thing that they feed on, the thing that they work with is fear. They're very good at mind control. They're very good at placing thoughts into your head. Fear to them is consent. So as soon as you consent through fear, you give your power to them, as is with any fear. Healthy fear, sure, if it's a reactory one and you're in a situation, you're going to jump off the cliff, you want to run the other way. That's different. But this kind of fear is a programmed fear, designed, A, to feed, and B, so that they can control, because you've just said, hey, here I am. Take me, take my soul, and do with it what you will. Hence the programming and the rollout of the fear narratives that are hitting us. They're like, bang, right now, particularly over the last 5 years. Here's another, go, 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 because they're losing control, because people are starting to wake up. People are starting to see through their illusion, and they cannot afford for that to happen. It's why they're done already. We collectively, globally, just have to realize that. It will lift the vibration of the earth. That is happening anyway. And it's been happening for some time as more people see through the illusion, and they start to come into their own. They start to have a look at themselves. They start to realize what has been going on and the enslavement that's been happening. The vibration rises. When the vibration of the earth rises, they're not going to be able to exist here.
So you mentioned the goo. What was that all about?
The black goo, they have actually
the black goo.
located the black goo. Yeah, so they've
Yeah.
located some black goo on Earth. My understanding of that is it is a substance that was brought from another universe. It was used by the Greys and the Anunnaki to set up a station in the rings of Saturn, connected to the moon and then to Earth. Not only do we have all of those things that I mentioned before, but an energetic grid was manipulated. The energetic grid around the Earth was manipulated to keep pumping in that lower vibration. The black goo was sent out to ensconce that electromagnetic grid and keep that vibration there. We have had so much working against us, it's difficult for us to even fathom.
We can feel it a lot of time anyway, because every time we want to go forward, there's blockage. You get stopped. You think, I've got it right now. And then it just like, oh, you step back. It's just forever trying to move forward. And then you realize you can't move as fast as you would like to. You just keep, in the same spot a lot of times. Even if with huge effort, you still can't go as far as you want. You'd like to.
That's right. And again, that's all by design. And when you are in the light, when you're coming into your own, you shine. You emit a light that you have no idea of how bright that comes as you progress along your path. Anyone looking down from out there, you're a shiny, shiny being going brut, 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 literally. That just doesn't mean that only the light people can see you. It means that those who are in service to self can see you as well in those other realms. They don't want to let go of power. They are doing absolutely every single thing that they possibly can to retain their sense of authority. They believe in immortality. They believe that they hold the keys to immortality. They want immortality on Earth so that they can feel that sense of power and control, and they won't let it go easy. They can't help but let it go. With what is happening here at this point in time, which is an incredible point to be here on this earth for every single one of us, they cannot stay. They know it is done. But because of their self-service mode, they are going to stop everything that they can. They will use whatever energy, whatever entities, whatever elementals, whatever processes they can to stop you from going ahead.
So they're really fighting to the end and really try to take as many as they can with them.
They really are. They really are.
Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. My pleasure.
So actually, it actually have us to really shift a lot of things in our mind, although we tend to think there's a different way of the norm. But then when you ponder on this and you listen to somebody else who have a different view and you can see the truth through it all, it actually help us to really individually to probably work out how we can move forward from, this complicated situation we're in now and move forward together.
It makes it so that you're almost playing a game of charades and you're just picking up the same card all the time. And so that movie is your movie to try and depict tonight. And then you move forward a couple of 100 years in history. By that time, hopefully the population's forgot, let's play that same charade again, because that's all it is. It's just a charade. It's a game. It is a game to them where the illusion that they create is on repeat every few hundred years or every couple of thousands of years when the population has forgotten. Oh, let's pluck that card out again and let's go. We should be right for the picking right now. So off you go. And they go running. Each time they do it, they perfect. They change the language. We know about spells and language, spelling, you know. So every time they do that same card, they just get better and better and better. And they make it more difficult. This last time around, they've had a lot more help than they have had before.
Unreal.
Mm.
Thank you so much. That was
You're
really
welcome.
good.
You're welcome.
And it's almost like with sports, the Olympics, they were feeding off the leash from that. Now, how does that differ to the excitement of a Trump rally where people are excited versus those who are distracted with sports and entertainment?
Trump rally, people are excited. They want to move forward. They've all got the same vision in their mind, higher vibration.
So
Loosh.
what we need to see basically is a lot more, I wouldn't say uprising, but I'm saying a lot more people celebrating together with what's
That's
going
right.
on. Yeah.
That's exactly right. It's why they've created so many wars. It's why they do wars. It's actually not about the money, and it's not about the weaponry. It's not about oil.
It's the loosh.
It's the loosh. When you have a big event which creates fear and to absolute terror and fear, that negative energy just goes up like a mushroom into them, and they're just like, oh, thanks very much for coming. Here I am.
Very interesting.
Wars are prolonged, so you've got
Yeah.
a constant
Yeah,
flow of this fear, death, fear, upset from your families back at home. It's a massive feed. That's why they do them.
Interesting. Wow.
Mm.
Robert, but
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hi, Robert.
Excellent. Kim, thank you so much. In fact, I must say that this part of this tonight, with you talking about the energies, is much more interesting and valuable, I think, for most everybody than the, history stuff. But I'm lucky enough that I was married for almost 10 years to the mother of my two children, but it turns out they are Cabal, her side of the family. And I now realize how difficult this must be for my children, because we really are opposite ends of the spectrum. And it never seemed to work when I was married. So I understand why we aren't together anymore. Now it's been 18 years since the divorce. And I'm almost within 6 months, I believe, of separating. I was introduced to Tantra. And so I've had the benefit of being tantric now for 18 years. And so I really feel the energies. And when, like, for instance, when COVID came and they were coming at us with such energy with the fear, I was like, well, my heart is where I am love, and the reptilian brain is where the fear is. And I can choose one or the other. They're not, they don't fit. You can't have both. You got to pick one or the other. But most people didn't realize they actually could make that choice. So it's been a pretty easy 4 years for me, especially I could see everything so clearly of what was happening. But I wanted to make a comment on the lady that was just asking you before. She was talking about the resistance that happens when we're doing things. And one of the tricks, everybody, that I think you should realize is that they want you to keep trying into the resistance, keep trying. And what I've learned is, oh, resistance, oh, let me just go do something else. So I make that a game where I don't even go with the resistance. I just, like, if I misplace something, I laugh and I go, oh, it needed to take a break from me. And then I never lose anything that way. So I think that that's key, really, to realize. And when you feel these entities coming in a very powerful negative way, I just look right at them and I go, I am so much love. You cannot stay around here. You're going to be very uncomfortable. And they do. They leave. They cannot handle it. So I feel very empowered, and you've just confirmed a bunch of the things that I feel as my existence. And I've raised Jewish. What are the odds that I would even find the information that was down in Charlie Ward's rabbit hole? But here I am, and I am not proud of my Jewish upbringing at all. Thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks, Robert. And you should be proud of your Jewish upbringing, because it really, everything that we do, every path, every journey that we take makes us who we are. And it brings us to this point right now, because we chose those paths. So embrace the upbringing that you've had, embrace the experiences that you've had, because that's all part of loving you. You chose them. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you. That's lovely. I appreciate that, Kim. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks, Robert.
Marie.
Hello, beautiful people.
Hello,
Hi,
darling.
Marie.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Look, I just want to say just a comment on that and how I find things. And that is when you say, Kim, all the things that they are doing to keep us at a low frequency, right? And then knowing that we are so powerful, we don't even know how powerful we are. And just to step into that and just sort of, for me, I just like when I go out into the shopping centres or whatever, or, when I go out, I just love it, and I get a kick and I get a buzz, and it gets me high to smile at people, just to say lovely, just say something nice to people, just to start up a conversation. You're both standing there waiting to be served, and just to be nice, and just to, what a buzz. Here they are,
That's great.
here they are trying to suppress us, right? And I'm getting a buzz out of being high, and I'm starting the wave when I drive a car. See, you know how you have merging traffic? You merge.
Yeah.
I put my window down and I wave, put my hand out, start the wave everywhere. And because that is amazing, the way they are trying to suppress us. And you can feel it, sort of thing. But to shine and just to be happy, and I love it. And what Robert just said, the guy before me, you can feel it. You can, like through COVID, like because we live down the beach, and we're walking along the beach, and I wouldn't wear a mask because the seawater is 3 feet away from me, and God has given me common sense. And people are on a walk path, only about 30 feet away, and they've all got masks on. And I'd say, fresh air down here, guys. There's no fear. There's no fear. We haven't been given a spirit of fear.
No, we haven't. And that's beautiful, Marie. I really love that. And I love that you're doing the wave and that you're smiling at people. I think we can all do these little things to uplift ourselves. But more than that, you really don't know how far your ripples go. If you smile at someone or have a kind word for someone, that person might be on the brink of whatever. And your smile, your comment, your energy has just lifted them up out of the depths of doom, if you like. And you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's so important because your energy, your thoughts, your heart touches everyone and everything. And you might just be that one that makes a difference to someone's life without even knowing it. So I love that you do that.
Yeah. And look, at the moment, there's a lot of lemons on the lemon trees, for example. And here I am, I'm at Woolworths doing my click and collect. And this lady pulls up next to me. She's, going to get her groceries as well. Oh, she says, would you like some lemons? I'm giving her lemons. Oh, yeah, look, lovely. So she gives me a whole lot of lemons that I won't need. And then I turn to the other side, and there's this Indian guy on the other side. I go, oh, here. And I gave him about 4 or 5 lemons. Just here we are waiting for our groceries, and we're all giving each other lemons. And then I'm driving around, and there's bags on front fences full of lemons. Help yourself.
That's beautiful.
I know, and I thought I'm telling everybody because, bad news gets out, but nah, spread good news. Oh no, I love it. I'm
And-
buzzing.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Anyway, I just
Yeah.
thought I'd share that with you guys.
Thanks, Marie.
And for those who are wanting to get some of those happy pills of Marie, I'll put the link in the chat down below pretty soon. So all good.
Funny enough, I can repel people. Can you believe that?
I can.
That's it.
I irritate people, and I think, well, what's the matter with them? I don't know.
Not the
can't
right
see-
frequency, Dale.
No, they can't sit in your vibration.
That's right, exactly.
Hmm.
Okay, so it is heading towards the top of the hour. So what I'll do is just finish recording here now. So for those who are watching the recording, thank you so much for being on the call.